Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'm going to be looking at Cape May. Now in this game you're going to take on the role of entrepreneurs in the seaside town of, well, Cape May. You'll be buying property and building shops and cottages. Now of course you'll also want to be upgrading your buildings from cottages to a Victorian or even a landmark. And of course you want to get your quaint little shop into a fully profitable businesses. Of course along the way you also want to take some time and just enjoy the scenery and maybe spot some birds. Of course, all these things are going to bring you prestige, and the player with the most prestige at the end of the game will be, surprise, surprise, the winner. Now this game has a bunch of mechanisms that I really enjoy. You have a limited set of cards for movement, and you only get your cards back into your hand if you take one of your precious actions to do that. Now you're also going to be building buildings, but there's always a choice. To build cottages, which will give you end of game scoring, but don't really make a lot of money during the game, or go for the businesses that will get you a lot more money during the game, but alas, no victory points at the end. Now this game is all about balance and timing, as you only have 12 rounds to do everything you want. So, will this game be a lasting landmark in your collection, or will it be avoided like that old derelict abandoned shack at the end of the street? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and I'll come back for my final thoughts on Cape May. So here's Cape May set up for 3 players. The event cards are shuffled and the round marker is placed on the topmost spring icon. Each player takes a player board and all of their components, including their movement cards, cottage and shop tokens, their upgraded Victorian, and business miniatures. They'll place their income marker on 0 and their player marker on the start space on the main board. And you're going to place another marker on the 0 space of your action track. Each player starts with $20. Then each player also gets 2 activity cards from the shuffled deck. Each player also gets 4 bonus cards and will decide which 2 to keep for end of game scoring, and the others are returned to the box. The upgrade cards are separated by the zones, and you reveal the top card from each deck. All the bird tokens go in the bag, and all other components are placed off to the side of the board. Now the goal of the game is of course to get the most victory points, and you're going to be traveling around the city using your movement cards and building either cottages or shops in the 4 different zones on the board. They are the gravel zone, the grass zone, the dirt zone, and the sand zone. Once you have built a building, you can upgrade it to make it more powerful. Now building cottages won't give you very much money, but are good for the end of game scoring, while shops will give you money during the game, but are not worth as many points at the end of the game. The game is played over 4 seasons, and each season has 3 rounds, and a round consists of 3 steps. Reveal a card, each player then takes 3 actions, and finally advance the lighthouse to the next round. Now during all rounds except for the first, you will reveal an event card. The first player will read the next event, and you'll activate it. Now there are 2 types of events, an immediate event, and they are carried out as soon as the card is revealed, and an active event, which will last throughout the entire month. And if the event card indicates an area of the city that is affected by fire, you can use the fire tokens to mark them. Now once the event is done, each player will take 3 actions. The possible actions are to play a movement card, and this is how you're going to be moving around the board. Whichever card you play, you must move the full amount. Sub-movement cards even have a cost to play them. You cannot move through the same space more than once per action, and cannot end up on the same starting space. Arrows must be observed, and you cannot go against the arrows. Any number of players can share a same space. And when you have finished moving, if you've ended on a special space, you're going to take its action. A bird allows you to randomly draw a bird from the bag. The lighthouse allows you to build a shop or cottage on an empty space for a flat $5. And the pier space allows you to draw 3 activity cards and keep 2. As an action, you can build in a space adjacent to your player piece. Cottages can only go on square spaces, and shops must go on hexagon spaces. You pay the cost as outlined on your player board for the zone that you're going to be building the building in. Then you adjust your income, again based on your player board. There are white dots on the lots that show which movement spaces it is adjacent to when you go to build it. You can also upgrade for an action. In an adjacent lot to where your player marker is, you can upgrade a cottage with a Victorian, or upgrade a Victorian to a landmark, or you can upgrade a shop to a business. Now if you do upgrade to a business, you can take an upgrade card from the matching zone. As in the building on a space, the cost is shown on your player board, as are the income adjustments. For another action, you can draw activity cards. You draw 2, you discard 1. You can also play an activity card for an action. These are pretty powerful cards and will allow you to often upgrade or do building in lots that you're not adjacent to. Or you can move your player marker or even give you a discount on building. For an action, you can pick up all previously paid movement cards back into your hand so they can be reused. And lastly, for an action, you can just get $3 from the supply. Once each player has done their 3 actions, you advance the lighthouse, pass the first player token to the next clockwise player, and remove any fire markers from the board if there are any. And if you advance the lighthouse to a receive income month, all players receive dollars based on their position on the income track. The game ends at the end of the 12th round. Take your player marker from the board and use it to score. First, score your Victorians and landmarks based on the zone that they are in. Then you're going to figure out majorities in each zone and score those based on the number of buildings each player has. Next, you score any upgrade cards, then score your bird collections. You're looking for collections of non-matching bird tokens. Each bird can only be in one collection, but you can have multiple collections of non-matching birds. Now there are a few bird tokens that are slightly different, like the hot air balloon or Hindenburg, which give you straight points and are not part of any bird collection. Your bonus cards are then scored, and remember, you do not lose points if you fail to meet the requirements of one of your bonus cards. And finally, for every $10 you have left, you're going to score a point. And then the player with the most points is the winner. Now let's get back to see what I thought about Cape May. So, theme and components. The theme of this one is one I really enjoyed. It just seemed so nice and approachable and worked well with the mechanisms in the game. You're walking around town, looking at property to buy and upgrade, all the while not forgetting to stop and do some bird watching. The event cards also make a lot of sense in terms of the theme and invoke the theme as do many of the components in the game. So, why don't we talk about the components? Now this is a nicely produced game. Now you definitely don't need the plastic minis of the cottages and the businesses, but you know what? It certainly doesn't hurt. And the cards are nice quality and easy enough to read. The player boards are very useful as some of the most important information on the cost and benefits are right at your fingertips. The board is also very evocative of the theme. Now I do have one small issue with the board because they went for a very realistic board. It means that the paths are not straight. So when you get a card that says diagonally adjacent, it's not easy in some places to recognize what is diagonally adjacent. Now they do define what they mean in the rulebook, but visually the first time you play it, it may be a little confusing. Now of course there's only a few spots like that on the board, and once you've played it once or twice, you'll soon recognize them and know exactly what's diagonally adjacent. So on to the gameplay. The game is nice and easy to play. It has a few mechanisms that we unfortunately have seen before, but I do enjoy them. The movement of your person, playing the cards and having to go the exact number of steps is of course interesting. I do like that some of the cards cost you money, and they cost the money to do the extremes. The 7s and the 1s cost the most to play, while the cards in the middle were free. And of course the decision on when to pick up your cards is always interesting. Do you push it just one more action, or are you good enough spot to do what you want to do right now? And the buying and the upgrading of your cottages and businesses. Again, a good decision point in the game, but not overly complicated. Do you want the money, which is a necessity during the game, or do you want to go for points at the end of the game? Of course, you want the points, of course, but you need money to get the points. So how many businesses is just enough to get the money you need to buy the houses? Because focusing solely on money to build lots of other businesses probably won't win you the game. So again, not a deep decision, but still a decision to be made during the gameplay and on your turn. Now I also did like this slight player indirect interaction. You're not directly attacking your opponents, but getting things built in the sandy area like on the beach, especially those Victorians, can be worth a fair number of points at the end of the game. Yes, it's the most expensive area to build in, so it's not going to be the first round, but the houses are worth the most points, and the shops will get you the most money. And you get some of the better upgrade cards if you upgrade to a business. So people are fighting for those spaces on the beach, which is kind of like real life. But I like a lot of other things in the game too. It's all about the balance and timing. You only get money every 3 rounds, so you need to be minding that. Your movement is limited, so you need to be minding that as well. And of course your endgame bonuses cards, which will often help dictate where you should move and where you build your buildings. So it kind of gives you an option of what to do on your turn. Now I should mention an important note about the balance. I think this is where the game both works well and maybe not as well. The event cards can be very swingy. Sometimes you spend an entire turn to move to an area so you can build something for your bonus card. And then there's a fire. Now it doesn't make sense to build there because of the increased cost and you just can't afford to build there. That can be very annoying. The random events happen to everyone, but how it affects you seems to be completely random. Wrong place at the wrong time. But to balance those out are the activity cards that are extremely useful. You're on the other side of the board, but need to get the last maybe beach spot. Hopefully you have an activity card that will allow you to do that. Need to do lots of movement in a turn. So again, hopefully you have an activity card for that. Stuck in an area where there was a fire this round? hopefully you have an activity card that's going to help you out. Now without these cards, I don't think I would have recommended this game. They just might tip the balance for me. I also feel like the bird watching was kind of a little out of place. It seemed disconnected to the main thrust of building and upgrading your properties and those decisions. I do like that they were another way to score points, but they feel so disconnected from the main gameplay. There's only a few activity cards and a few bonus cards that have anything to do with bird spaces or bird tokens. Why not have them as more of an option instead of what feels like almost an afterthought or a lesser option? Now, they are worth points, and if you can get all 7 types of birds, that's going to be worth the most points for a single thing. But I do think going the building route is easier and kind of more guaranteed to get the points in the long run. The birds feel almost like well, I can't do anything else this round, so maybe I'll try to get move to a bird spot to hopefully get a bird token that I don't have. So would I recommend this game? There's not much new to this game. I feel like I've seen these mechanisms and decision points before in other games. But with just the right amount of randomness, an interesting theme, and the smoothness of gameplay, and the slight tension over getting that last spot you need, ultimately I think I would recommend this one. I really like the look of this game and appreciate the plastic minis. Again, then not completely necessary, definitely adds something to the game and to the theme. Going from the cardboard cottages to your Victorian definitely makes it look thematic. I like the base mechanisms of the movement cards. I also like the basic decision points, money during the game or end of game scoring. And the bonus cards give you something to work towards and help kind of guide your strategy. But the onboard scoring is also just as important. The action cards give the game a little boost, as well as from being pedestrian. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the randomness of the event cards, but again, the action cards did a little help to offset that. The birds feel a little disconnected from the main gameplay. They felt like a secondary option. Now, I do fear that as a light to middleweight Euro, that this one is going to get lost in the shuffle. And honestly, for the size and weight of this box, I wanted a little more depth to the game as the strategies become familiar after a few plays. That makes it good for an early game or as an introductory game, but I feel might kill the longevity of this game. So overall, I'm going to give this game a 7 out of 10 and the Dice Tower seal of approval. Now, I really enjoyed my plays of this one, and it was easy to get it off the shelf and introduce it to people. It has an approachable theme and is visually appealing. But what keeps it from getting a higher score is that the game doesn't do anything we haven't seen before and doesn't bring a lot of depth to the table. So, I like the gameplay. This is all about balance, and it got the balance right for a lighter gateway game, but I do worry about it tipping in the future and being forgotten. And that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.